So for this segment, I'm going to start by discussing how your CS team can unlock revenue opportunities post-sale from existing customers, and in doing so, generate more informed, authentic, properly placed conversations for sales to increase revenue from them in the future. So let's talk a little bit about how and when to do that. So the way I've gone about it is to, there's lots of strategies here, but I've chosen to focus on 5 so as to not overwhelm. Maybe 5 is even too many, but here we go. So the first one is to use your success resources on high value customers. That can be through the initial value of their first sale. Or it could be through an evaluation of the size of the business and their likelihood for them to increase their spend with your product or service in the future. The second is engage sales opportunities once value is achieved and ROI or return on investment is measurable. So if you have, let's say, a customer success manager who's building and fostering that relationship with the customer, they're deeply understanding their use case and what they aspire to achieve with your product or your service. They can identify the right point in time based on outcome or value achieved that can table set a very authentic and rewarding conversation between your sales team and the customer in the future. The third is to invest time with customers to understand lost revenue. So this, honestly, I've seen is often overlooked, but investing time with customers to understand why an item was returned or why a service contract was canceled or a subscription churned, or a customer is even just decreasing their existing spend to something less, collecting feedback and having a framework to collect it is crucial. The fourth is keep sales involved even if they're not actively selling. So don't be afraid to involve sales in non-sales conversations, if possible, along the customer journey. So this I've seen accomplish a number of things. So it shows that the sales rep is listening before acting on a sales conversation. It shows that sales is actually invested in the customer by continuing to learn about what is yielding value for them. It generates actually internally more strategic conversations between your customer facing and your sales teams about when and how to engage a customer sales opportunity. It also enables your sales org to sell more effectively to prospects by understanding what's taking place with customers further down the journey, giving sales that experience of what things are like 180 days after they actually bought from you can actually help them take that information and sell more effectively to prospects to generate more new sales. There's also ways to bring sales into these CS-led conversations to be a fly on the wall, like frameworks as to how to introduce them. It could be project kickoff calls, customer handoffs, quarterly business reviews, new feature and product discovery calls. There's so many different types of touch points. You'd have to make it unique to your business. The last one is to share tools cross-functionally and integrate them as much as possible. So whether that's your CRM, your support tool, your marketing stack, or whatever your business operations stack is, it's vital that you're doing your best to generate a customer 360 throughout the journey so that documented customer engagements across all channels are accessible to all teams. By doing this, you mitigate like a classic situation of a sales rep reaching out to a customer and them having no idea, the sales rep having no idea, that the customer is either in the middle of or recently had a support request that was unsatisfactory. That's not going to be a very beneficial sales conversation. So, Letitia, we can dive a little deeper into 3 of these 5 key strategies just for sake of time. So you can move to the next slide. So let's talk about using success resources on high value customers. So you might decide customer success managers or account managers only work with customers who pay a certain amount for your product. This can be based on the revenue acquired through the new sale. So your business wants to make sure that the revenue is retained, and having a success team deployed to customers that meet this minimum revenue threshold that your business designates helps protect revenue by having your success org focus on maximizing return on investment with these customers and also working on generating future revenue opportunities for sales. The other way to look at it is you might decide to have your customer success resources deployed based on the size and scope of the business. So working with a larger business to realize the value of using your product could lead to more revenue down the line. So Just to give this one as more of an example, you might close a lower revenue sale, but it's with like a mid-market or enterprise business, an identifiable brand as an example. So that's actually a gold mine revenue opportunity for for increasing revenue post-sale, excuse me. So by engaging a success team on these types of customers, you can really help the business understand their ROI on their initial smaller investment and see what future opportunities may be on the table for them to grow their business by using more aspects of your product or service. You can move to the next slide. So let's talk a little more now about engaging sales opportunities once value is achieved and ROI is measurable. So before any future revenue opportunity can really present itself, delivery on the initial use case and value that the customer is looking to achieve that led to that sale is the first step. So here, things like time to value, onboarding, product or service education become paramount to even creating the possibility of a future sales opportunity with an existing customer. It's the success team's job to deliver on these things, document them well, and use it not just to continue to provide great service and value to the customer, but to identify whether that customer has more potential to increase their spend. Breaking down customer outcomes into measurable steps and goals is crucial. So in doing this, it enables the success team to better understand the time horizon of the customer, uncover their vision for future end states beyond their initial implementation or setup with your product, and make measuring value along the way more bite-sized. The momentum you can generate by breaking down time-based goals and initiatives with your customers is fundamental to any project delivery. But what it also does is it sets up really rewarding conversations between customers and the sales team, as those medium and long-term visions of grandeur that these customers might have at the outset could be tied to requirements for the customer to spend more with you to unlock those additional features, products, or services you offer to get there. This all cues up timing the engagement with sales. So your CS team needs to be true advocates internally for your customer base and speak on their behalf internally. So when your CS team basically needs to be empowered to lead this conversation internally and strategize with the sales team about when to engage. That way, when they can engage, the timing becomes everything. The sales team needs to be in a position to engage with the CS team to strike while things are hot. There's nothing worse than not taking that momentum when it presents itself and moving quickly on it. You can move to the next slide. The last one that I'll dive deeper on is just understanding lost revenue. So a customer you lose revenue from is still very much worth your time. Engage with that customer that you lose your revenue from. Don't just do it through casual conversation. That's definitely better than nothing. But it's important that you invest in a framework to collect, digest, and analyze data from many customers, as well as look for common patterns to identify opportunities to improve, whether that's your process, your product, your messaging, et cetera. Or even suggest adjustments to the persona of your customer you're acquiring as another example. This, again, will help sales sell better based on the knowledge that you're gaining from the revenue that you're not retaining from those sales. So by sharing this type of information with your sales team, while you're losing the customers very costly, what you can do is use that information to improve the sales team's selling strategy, to continue to refine who you're selling to, and improve future cohorts of customers that are going to be more successful for using your product in the future. So that's all about improving future cohorts. We can move to the next slide. So switching topics a little bit and going more into community. So there's existing customers and prospects that are talking about your brand or about the problem your product or service solves, and you're not part of the conversation. So the solution here is to invest in community. So by creating a sense of community around your business, you're unlocking a major opportunity to really foster a strong sense of belonging between your business and your customers. But more importantly, between the customers themselves. And there's a lot of value here. So this unlocks both quantitative and qualitative insights to track and measure your customer base, act on feedback, and be transparent and open with your customers. can move to the next slide. So you can look at creating a community like in a lot of ways. I'll just kind of break down two. So I'll briefly touch on like building a presence on social media and engaging with your prospects and customers on those channels. Not really a customer service type of conversation, but I think very important to better understand how you can leverage it and how a CS team has a vested interest. The other one is in investing in a community platform for greater visibility, control, and engagement on your customer and prospect communication and interactions. So we can briefly talk about social media. We can move to the next slide. So social media platforms are obviously some of the most highly trafficked platforms on the internet. Your business needs to use that as an opportunity to have your own brand participate on the right platforms that are relevant to your business. So you're in front of your prospects and customers, even if they're not directly engaged with your product or service. So the big thing here is to focus on the social media channels related to your target industries and customer persona. These could be Facebook groups, Reddit forums, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and more, TikTok. But it's very important to pick a very finite number that you believe is where your customers are doing most of their participation. Building an audience is so difficult and the social media landscape is very expansive. You need to invest on the right channels. The last thing here is to leverage your customers' advocacy and insights with your product and share it. So customers will often share it with their network if they're featured, and the authenticity of the content when the customer shares it is way more valuable. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll just show you two examples. So this just, is one step further. It just goes to show like public customer advocacy speaks more than a lot of the content that your business is actually producing to attract, acquire, and retain customers. And the best part about this is like, this is free. Your customers are just doing it because you've generated these types of advocates that are now sharing it with their own networks. Can move on. So now we'll kind of switch to like the meat and potatoes of this segment and talk more about community platforms. So community platform can be an unbelievable new channel for your business to enhance the prospect and customer experience by having a hub to share company information and updates or events and enable customers to interact directly with employees of the business and enable your customers to communicate with and interact with each other. The best part of it all is it's under your brand with more transparency, accessibility, and the ability to analyze and act on things much faster. You can move to the next slide. So by having a community platform strategy in place, you can do a number of impactful and insightful things through business to customer communication and interaction, customer to business communication and interaction, and customer to customer communication and interaction. So I'm just going to quickly run through a bunch of these examples. Yeah, you can move on, Letitia. Thanks. On the business to customer side, I'll just highlight a few examples. So you can deploy your customer self-serve knowledge solutions, such as your knowledge base, tips and tricks, developer documentation, and more. Community platform gives you the ability to track page views, reactions, replies, and leverage documentation to provide more insightful answers to questions from your customers. By having your self-serve knowledge solutions hosted within your community, you're creating this one-stop hub rather than a series of disparate places your prospects and customers have to go to collect this information about your product or service. Hosting your self-serve knowledge information in the same place or channel that someone can also interact with you socially enables you to aggregate not just the information you put out to your customers or prospects about how your product works or why it's valuable, but also listen to your customers in terms of what they think, what they want to learn more about, and where they might need more help. You can move to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So communicating product or service updates is another example. So you can track and measure reactions, replies, sentiment level from your updates and the announcements you make about your product or service. So by communicating these updates in a channel directly with your prospects and customers, this further validates your investment in your product, helps you iterate on future improvements through the reactions and the replies that you get, and it clarifies any uncertainties with how things work from the end user's perspective. All this information can be super valuable to your support and success teams, preparing them with documentation to harness after the product's been updated, but it also helps with revising sales pitches and value propositions, as well as marketing materials that might support your sales team closing new business. The last one in this area is you can announce and manage online and in-person events and get people talking about it. Track things like event attendees, knowledge gain for the event, share the recording, and more. Can move on to customer to business communication. So you can enable customers to share feedback and ideas about your product or service. You can track and measure feature requests and suggestions, upvoting from other customers and prospects, and engage in discussion and unpack use cases from prospect and customer ideas and more. So by enabling your customers to have a place to share their ideas, even interact directly with employees or even your leadership team at your business with their suggestions, you're fostering relations by listening to them. And the gratification your customers get when they see that idea in the community turned into reality by maybe a product update that you put out that relates to it is extremely powerful and valuable. And it also shows that your business delivers on listening to your customers. Next slide. Other use case here is you can set up like a beta or an early access to new products and services with a smaller segment of power users or key prospects who can give you early insights before releasing a major feature, introducing a new product or new service. And really this allows you to leverage experimentation with product messaging, sales messaging, your customer documentation that you've produced to support it. And it basically enables you to better understand how your customers will receive this feature or this change to refine your messaging, documentation, and sales pitch. And finally, on the customer to customer side, you can do things like enabling customers to show and tell. So let your customers talk about what their business is, why they're using your product or service, and what value they're getting out of it. Enabling customers to engage on that content that's being shared can help you decipher future revenue opportunities from them. So this is like similar to a showcase or a case study that you might have on your marketing website. But it's more informal and it's more authentic because it's the customer that's actually putting out the content themselves and initiating that conversation with other customers about sharing it with them. The second is you can set up and ask for help or support space. So you can enable your customers to both search for more unique questions, find best answers provided either from the business or from a fellow customer. So as much as your self-serve documentation helps, it can't cover every edge case or point of potential confusion or misunderstanding for your customers. So by also giving them a direct place to pose their questions, it helps further clarify more unaccounted for situations with your customers, and it's hosted alongside your self-serve documentation. It also helps you to identify who some of your power users might be that are helping other customers that are posing questions, and really enables you to look below the hood with more what's going on with your customer base. Finally, allowing like-minded people with shared interests to connect with each other under a particular topic or purpose. So having a community really enables you to have a unique type of transparency into how your customers interact with one another. Those conversations between customers or users can be more valuable than their interactions with your business in a lot of cases. So that's kind of everything. It's a lot to digest, but there's a ton of opportunity with community-oriented approaches. Thank you to everybody for listening.